Mel's having a party in her office.
Is she?
Let's go.
Bruce, are you at the gym?
No.
So, hey everybody, welcome to, you're not at the gym?
No. Get my
Welcome to Listing Conversion. Thanks for coming. I'm really excited about this class because with our market showing low inventory right now and with our summer ad campaign that we have going on, we really wanted to make sure to recover this class. So I am really glad to see everybody here because it is an important class with everything going on in our market right now. So right now for sellers, it's an amazing time to list their home. We have seen numerous multiple offer situations and even property selling for amounts over their value. So due to this, we want to be sure that we are kind of setting an expectation way ahead of time and asking lots of questions. So listings are key and almost always guaranteed money. So Jeff and Mel, can you guys give me some input on like just mastery and the goal of listings?
Yeah. So I don't know about if anybody else struggles with this, but I know that Mel and I did. We struggled with. We were uncomfortable with listings for a period of time when we started out in the business, and I think that you're reluctant to handle listing leads until you become comfortable with your listing. We don't like to call it presentations, but your process in which you go through when you're having that listing conversation with sellers. So once this class is designed to help us get away from that feeling, that uncomfortable feeling, so that we can embrace how we handle all the conversations all the opportunities that we get for listings. I looked it up today and there were like, I don't know, condos are at 138 condos on the market. When you click lakefront, it takes it down to 111. I mean, the numbers are crazy. So we have to take advantage of every opportunity that we have and do it in the best way that we can, so that we look different from other agents. So we represent our value as best we can, because obviously commissions are getting pressured a little bit too. And I think that going through these classes, you can't go through it once. You could go through it, this particular class, I think you could go through it 50 times and pick up something every time, because every situation's a little bit differently. And the better we get, the more we tweak it a little bit, it's going to help protect our income, help us secure more listings. If we get those listings and we get them in a decent spot, they are going to sell right now. Mel, you got anything to add?
No, I mean, I had to embrace listings, and now I love listings. If I never had to put a buyer in my car again, I'm totally cool with that. The listings allow you to have your time, and you have more control, and then you have more of a continuing income, and you don't have to be here necessarily to still have them sell. You can be at home and other people are working for you. So it's just a way to use your time better. And that's how you get your buyer calls when you do want the buyers.
All good points. I would highly encourage you guys to, like, in your downtime, to study the workbook, because of course we've condensed these classes to last an hour, so we don't get to everything, but study the scripts, study the different things in your downtime to really leverage the listing conversion process. So let's kind of jump into what this course is about. Like Jeff had mentioned, we're all about teaching agents how to have the conversational approach to helping sellers be informed, intelligent, and listing decisions. So we've already assumed that the lead's been generated for you, and now we want to imagine that we're going to attract our clients into agreeing to establishing that working relationship with us. One thing that I wanted to be sure to address here is to utilize your tools. I know Susan Ebling does like the sellers reports and sends a personalized letter with them explaining the market, what this means for people who are ready to list their home and what the future might look like, it's very powerful. And she said that she had a lot of, contact when she does this. So be sure that you are utilizing your tools, you're sending out information, you're being that information giver, because people don't know what they don't know. These numbers also update on Monday. Is that right, Jeff? They come out on Mondays.
What?
The update numbers that Susan Ebling uses in their sellers report.
Well, yeah, in those sellers reports, yes, that's an automatically generated report, comes out Monday, and you can use that in this conversation to let people know. One of the things that I do is I'm going to update you every Monday on the market. I'm going to show you what new properties are coming on, what price changes are hit. So it is another way to create that relationship. So it's you and them against the market. It's works really good.
Yeah. So that was something that came up in the last class. I just wanted to make sure that you guys knew that that was out there for you to utilize. It's great prospecting too. So be sure that you're doing that. The strategy taught in this course is to develop that relation-based listing method. It's kind of like a 5-stage process, but I know when I talked to Jason about it, we kind of chunk it up to even 3 stages. So just find what works for you. This is just here as a guidebook, but it doesn't mean that you have to do every step. You can mix and mold it however works for your business. Some important things to remember from the material before we kind of get into the stages and Jeff and Mel kind of give their input on those stages is with every strategy business, it's important to be intentional and proactive. Like Jeff was saying earlier, you want to have a strategy. You want to make sure that that strategy is working for your clients and for you. Within your strategy, I would highly recommend that you have some sort of checklist. Like the book always gives those 47 vital activities lists. Those are great. But again, you can take those, you can make them your own, but those are helpful so you aren't missing steps and you're making sure that you're breaking everything down and you're crossing all your T's and dotting all your I's. Be sure to always be tracking and updating your key indicators of success. So being able to say things like, I have a 98% sale to list price ratio, or a percent listings that actually do sell, or average days to offer, those can really help show your value, not only for your business, but to your clients as well. So tracking those is highly valuable. And then finally, like I said, we need to stop inviting sellers to having a presentation. We want to be talking about conversations. The concept here again being, let's just meet, let's see if we can establish that working relationship, that win-win, keep it kind of low pressure to self-discover. So that's the biggest key, is you want your sellers to self-discover. So after the class, you should feel confident enough to enter into those listing appointments and being able to have those conversations. Jeff, Mel, you got anything to add to any of that?
In regards to this market, what I am finding, listings right now are tougher than they've ever been. So if you don't already have your pre-listing booklet, you don't have your forms ready, you have got to be ready, because the people are not waiting. It is so highly competitive. When they call and they give you maybe 1 or 2 times, you have got to make yourself available. And sometimes it's an hour's notice. I had one the other day, they're like, well, we're ready now. Now, luckily, I've got everything in a folder. I know exactly what I'm going to bring. And I always print off right before I leave our market stats out of MLS for RE/MAX, because the numbers are current. They're very powerful. But you really have to have your ducks in a row to be able to work on their schedule now, because they don't care. It's too competitive. And they know if we don't come, they'll just call the next guy, because the patients at this point are gone, is what I'm finding.
So the point there, put some, if you have a booklet that you take with you, or you have certain stats, or you have information about your strategy or unique selling proposition, have that stuff pre-printed out so that you're ready at any time, because I think that's correct. I also think that no matter the market, and I agree, Mel, it's crazy today, but I also think that no matter the market, we ought to look at all listings as a interview. no matter if you've known them for you know, if you just took a call, or if you've known them for 10 years because they're a family member. Sometimes actually it's more important on that family member that you treat it like an interview. You have to cover all your bases so that you're setting yourself up for every scenario that you can that you might have to deal with. A long-term listing, price changes if they don't price it right initially. You know, you're presenting your right value so they don't question your commission if a contract comes right away. So I think it's a good idea to look at every listing opportunity as an interview. I'm interviewing with 5 different people. I'm competing. I need to be the best I can be, especially today.
If I could add that as well, and this was just a lesson I learned yesterday that I saw almost could have burnt me. Because especially in the condo market, it is so competitive. I watched people watch me pull up and go into the 2 units that I went and interviewed for yesterday. They watched me when I came out, and he already said, here's the deal. My friends in this complex want me to sell for sale by owner, but I'm not going to do that. I want representation. I want to hire you. It was to the point that I even said, would you feel comfortable? Let's go ahead and sign the listing agreement. You're comfortable with me. You're comfortable with the 7% fee I'm going to charge. All I've got to figure out yet is pricing. Let's go ahead and ramp up that part of the paperwork, and then I'll get back for pricing. Because I knew when I walked out of that door, those agents or those people in that complex were going to run in there and say, wait, before you sign, go ahead and sell it to me. What's the price? And I've seen that happen more.
I'm so glad you brought that up, because that's sales 101. How often do we want to tidy a contract up? We want to bring it back and type it so it looks pretty. I mean, I have been guilty of that many times, and we had the luxury of doing that. We didn't have to deal with what we have to deal with now. I'm glad you brought that up, Mel, because that's true. I mean, that'd be a bad surprise.
Well, and I think we want to be professional, and I'm not saying not to be professional, but I think we're getting caught up with everything has to be perfect. It doesn't have to be perfect. You can clean it up when you give it back to the office.
Why not type up a listing ahead of time? Just fill in the important stuff, you know, the legal, and have all of your information pre-filled in, initial where you have everybody initial where you write in, and you have everything typed anyway, and you're done.
Yeah, and you save yourself time. Like I have a listing booklet and I have a buyer's booklet. So in that has every form that I'm going to need, every disclosure. So it is always there. It's consistent, because I'm not messing around and coming back. If they say yes, it's go time. Now they can email you the disclosure back, but at least get it started so you can hurry up and get it on the market, you know, and then we can kind of share within the office, hey, this is coming, but you know you've got it secured.
Hey, Kaylin's moving us along. I like that. Thank you. Thanks for keeping us going.
No, you're good. No, I love those points, Mel. Those are awesome points. I like how, you know, being prepared is half the battle. And I totally agree with you. I wanted to ask you, Mel and Jeff, like, about these core beliefs and checking your attitude too. I mean, Mel, you said you learned that lesson about walking in yesterday and people were watching you and stuff. Like, how is your demeanor as you are going to this appointment? Like, before you even get there, what are the importance of these beliefs and accepting them and getting on that channel?
I know the minute I walk in there, that's a lot of money on the line. So it's game time. It's smiling, it's happy, and most importantly, you've got to be confident. I mean, you have to own it right now, because if they see that you are weak, they're going to walk right on over you. And it doesn't mean you have to tell them every answer. I mean, they drilled me yesterday, and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to go back and research that one. I am not sure, but I will find out. But that won't stop us from doing, you know, this first portion of it. But we'll get to that, because I don't want to leave any money on the table for you. So let me go back and research what your slips are selling for, you know, exactly what your dues are, because you don't remember. But we can get to that. But we're going to go ahead and go forward. But if I wasn't confident with telling them, I don't know, but I'll find out, I mean, I could have screwed it up and lost to somebody else. They just have to know you're going to find out.
So I appreciate that. And I agree with all of that. But you know, it's not, listings are not super comfortable for every agent when they start, but that's why they put these beliefs in there, because prior to even hitting the door, checking where you're at and understanding that you gotta get out of, what's that?
I was gonna say you kind of broke up there for a second, Jeff, when you first started.
Oh, I'm sorry. I just said, you know, the reason he puts these in, and it's funny because how long have we been going through these classes? I actually caught myself using what's put in motion stays in motion. I caught myself using it with a client. Am I breaking up yet?
No, okay. I was getting you.
I caught myself using that with a client the other day, and it's awesome. When you read this stuff and you use it, you start using things like it's a win-win or no deal. Cost is only an issue in the absence of value. Those are not just put on a piece of paper so you check your attitude. Those are actual little things that you can use with clients that is not, they will not hear that with regular real estate agents. So it differentiates you. But I think that having the belief in yourself and the understanding of these statements, there's real value in that, and it helps. You know, we used to stop a block away. We were told to stop a block away and get yourself in the right mindset before you hit that door. Because the minute that you drive into that driveway and you open that, knock on that front door, you are on. You have to be on. And it can mean the difference between you having to negotiate your commission and not having to negotiate your commission. Having the ability to stop interview process and have them not even go to the next agent and sign the listing with you or not. It's that crucial. And when we go on a listing here, we might be looking at a $10,000 paycheck. So it's very important to be in the right headspace when you get there.
I agree. I love the one that the home sell for 2 reasons, price and exposure. That one comes up a lot too, just because people don't know what they don't know. So being able to come back to that to validate what price entry point you're coming with is a huge one. I hear that one probably more than a lot of the other ones with this class.
Right.
So let's talk about the conversation. So entering the conversations when entering this conversation. Number 1, not all agents behave the same. Number 2, we must find and agree on the most appropriate price entry point. And number 3, we each have roles with specific expectations. Well, the main point of that is you want to engage, deliver message, and gain agreement. What are some important things to remember before communicating with clients?
I think when you're communicating with them, you ask them how they want to be communicated with. Because some do not want a lengthy email, some want a quick phone call, or some do want all the details. So you're trying to learn that personality of just ask them. I said, would you rather we sit and visit? Are you on a time crunch? You know, or do you have time to go through it? I mean, when I walked in yesterday, they had five file folders out with details and maps and everything of the dock layout. I'm like, oh, I'm going to be here a while. We're going to talk for a long time. We got everything we want to talk about. Yeah.
So this might be a little deeper than you want, but I want to control how the whole thing goes. And it's, you know, it's a moving target because not every property or couple are the same, but there's a couple things that I want them to know. First of all, I want them to know that I want them to have the feel right out of the gate that I've done this before. So I want to tell them what I'm doing. Hi guys, thanks for allowing me to come out today. One of the first things I like to do is I like to have you take me through the property. I'm going to take notes. I might stop you. I might ask some questions. I'm going to take notes in every room. And I do. Nobody can understand my notes except for me, but I'm writing while they're talking, and that shows I'm engaged. I care about their property. Most agents are going to come through and you got them right out of the gate because they're not even going to take notes or ask questions. They brought their stuff and that's what they want to do. They want to tell them how great they are. And, you know, a seller wants to showcase their property. They want to know how much you care about it. So, you know, when I think about that conversational approach, to me, it's what happens right out of the gate and how I'm interacting with that client as they take me through their property. I am learning about the property, but I'm finding about their motivation, their, you know, lots of things. So, and including, like Mel said, how they like to communicate. Are they both going to be involved, or is one going to stay off in the corner? You know, who is the decision maker in the group? Things like that. Is that too much? Did I jump ahead?
No, I love all of that. And you may have said it, Jeff, but I wanted to just add a couple more. And that was, you know, try not to be arrogant. You know, stay curious, ask lots of questions. The more questions that you can answer or ask, the more answers that you're going to get back to kind of feed that conversation even deeper. So you may have said that, but.
Well, no, I'm glad you said that, because by the way, when I'm going through the house, I'm not doing what you see on, you know, the HGTV where you nitpick the house. There is no negative at all coming from me. I'm excited. There's a time to talk about, you know, decluttering and fixing things, but it's not before I got the listing signed, because I'm not going to allow somebody else's positive attitude to come in and knock me off. So I'm careful about the way that I approach. I will see things, I'll write them down, I'll approach them later, but I will not be a negative Nelly or, you know, a downer to the property at the time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
It's something to add.
Well, they get their feelings hurt.
Yeah,
you know, sometimes we forget.
Yeah.
What I found too, it depends on the personality, but this is their home. This is their property. They have a lot of pride and joy in that. And some people clean different than others. Some people decorate differently. So, I mean, they're very sensitive. I mean, they've raised their children in here, had all their memories here. Some are sad to sell. Some are just a business decision. So you've got to handle it with kid gloves with them. So.
Well, and I'm sure that they have higher expectations, Mel, too, just because they do have that connection, you know.
You know, one thing, I don't think we're there, but one thing I do tell them, you know, listing your property is not always a fun process. So I need you to be prepared for that. Once we go under, you know, contract and we start showings, and if you're here, it's work. You know, the buyers have high expectations. The home needs to be, you know, picked up, show ready. I might call you within 5 minutes. I'll try to give you as much notice. But, you know, the way the market is right now, I could get a phone call and they want to see it in 5 minutes. Could you do that? So I have those questions ahead of time, and then they're prepared. I just try to let them know everything that's coming, so they're not like, you never told me this would happen. Well, it's a possibility. And we all need to be okay with that. And if you're not, tell me right now so I know how to handle it better for you.
Right. I like that. And that kind of leads into the next slide too, just kind of those pre-conversation activities that you have even before to the property. You know, that stage one kind of the stage of the 5 stages of this class, but, you know, putting these pre-conversation activities together with some minor courtesies can make a big difference, and could be what literally lands you the listing in the end. So let's talk about just like starting off with kind of the first one, which would be like pre-listing questions. Preparing tools, things like that. What in questions, you know, what do those sound like even?
For the pre-conversation activities, I actually have a form that I will follow. I mean, since I've been doing it a long time, they kind of click right off the top of my head. But I know when we get busy and we get stressed, I have to go back and focus on that, because I'll get overly excited and I want to move on to my next project. So if I have my form, it's a lot easier for me to follow and remember to ask those questions. And I just tell them it's kind of like being at a doctor's office. So just get ready for it. going to ask you all kinds of questions. And just be honest with me and tell me what y'all have. So.
That's a good analogy. How often do you change up your form, Mel? Do you ever change it up?
I haven't changed it up in years, but we tried to perfect it years ago. Sometimes I'll ask other questions though, but I do. And people are used to being asked questions when they go to the doctor's office, when you go to the DMV. They're okay with doing that because they're used to it. You just have to train them to do that.
So,
oh, sorry, Jeff, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to kind of ask, along with those pre-listing questions, Mel, when you're getting all of those, all that information or as much information as you can from those sellers, before you go to that meeting, are you trying, or do you kind of assemble any kind of comps at all
It
to take with you?
I do sometimes, but what I let them know is I do a 2-part listing process. we're not gonna focus as much on price today because I believe it's a disservice to you. We do not have apples to apples here. So I really need to see your home, see the condition, you show me what updates you've done, then I'm gonna go back and pull the pricing because it is not right for me to leave any money on the table for you. That's why you're hiring me, for my expertise. So we're not really gonna get into too much pricing. Now, say it's a condo complex, they know what's going on, so I will bring like maybe what's active and what's sold. But again, we're not gonna figure out that price. But it's more so for me, just in conversation, because they're gonna ask you. You know, I was at Summer Ridge yesterday and like, well, what's so-and-so so far? I'm like, one moment. So I'm pulling it, I'm like, yep, this is what they did. But that may not be the price I'm gonna tell you yet. They're like, good, because that was too low. But they will ask, so I'll have enough. But I don't lead with that. That is flipped upside down in my folder. I get it out if I have to.
Yeah,
but I'm not going to lead
if
with
you
it.
need it.
Mm-hmm.
I like that a lot. And so you're saying also that you do that initial meeting and then come back for a completely separate pricing conversation. Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
So I was just going to add that there's several ways to differentiate yourself in the pre-conversation stuff. And sometimes I've taken an assumptive role. If I had a great conversation with somebody and I got their email and I got their information, I'll send them a seller's disclosure to fill out before I'm ever there.
That's a good idea.
It's assumptive, and it's you know, some agents might not care for that, but I can do it in a way that's less threatening because I say, now one of the things we're going to go over is something that you will have to deal with any agent you decide to work with. I just like to give the folks that I work with a chance to look at it ahead of time, get to work on it. That way, if they have questions about it, we can deal with it when we're together. So I'm going to email you a blank seller's disclosure. I'm going to ask you to fill it out. So I've done it with that. I've sent them copies of listing agreements, see what they think you're scared about presenting. If there's anything that they think that you're going to be nervous or scared about, I send it to them. I'm just like totally open. Here, I'm going to send this to you. That way you guys can peruse it, go through it, see what you think, and we'll cover it when when we get together. It's not, oh my gosh, it's the last thing. It's the scary contract. It's here's a blank one. Take a look at it, and we'll talk about it. So it's something they're not going to see from everybody else that you can do prior to even meeting that will make them guarantee that they want to meet with you over anybody else that doesn't do that.
Well, I'm really glad that
go ahead. Sorry.
Said that, Jeff, because that was like one of the next things. I was glad that you said that because that was one of the next things, was just kind of preparing that ahead of time and sending it ahead of time, or getting creative with providing that kind of listing information. I know some people kind of do like videos or packets or folders, but yeah, that's awesome.
Just something different. It's not boilerplate. It doesn't have to be, but it doesn't have to be the same is what I'm getting at, but it has to be something to differentiate yourself. I love that they put increase your referral business on here. The right questions can lead to a referral before you ever get to that appointment. But so often, because we're busy, we forget to ask those questions or fail to ask those questions. My gosh, I'm really looking forward to meeting with you guys. So what are you doing after this? Where are you moving to? It might generate, oh yeah, we're going to St. Louis. Oh, have you found an agent up there already? Well, one of the things I can do is I can actually look based upon what area you're looking at. I can look who does the most business in that area, even narrow it down to certain property types, and I can bring those names with me when we meet. Is that something you'd be interested in me doing? It's a little further, but 25% of free money is free money. It's so, and it's, you'll be surprised. It won't work every time, but it will work a lot, and they will appreciate that. They look at that as something that benefits them, that you're helping pre-qualify who they're working with, which is true, you are.
I don't always do that, and I should have, because it takes forever to fill out.
One more thing.
Okay.
Takes forever to fill it out, Mel.
Well, it doesn't.
Sorry,
They always have questions. So in order to fill out disclosures, you might be sitting there a whole nother hour. So I'm like, oh, please don't. So if you can send it ahead of time, just say, start working on it. It's your homework. Answer it to the very best of your ability. Hide nothing. I believe in disclose. It's your best friend. And then when I get there, if you have questions and have a few blanks, we'll go over them at that time. But let's get started on it first.
I love assumptive closes. I love it. Just like I am going to be working with you.
I love that.
You know, and what I'll tell them too, a lot of times.
One more thing.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mel, I was just going to talk about arriving on time, but go ahead and make your point.
Oh, well, one thing I'll do too, because a lot of ours are sold with furnishings or turnkey, you know, and they'll ask that a lot and say, yes, if that's of interest to you, that is pretty popular here. So what I'd like you to do as well, not only look at the disclosures, look at what items are in your home or your condo that you are absolutely in love with. Those I want you to put in a closet. The other things maybe mark with a sticky, so I know when I do my inventory, you can think about it without the pressure from me there of what's near and dear to you, because we have more fights over furniture. People get wrapped up into it. They're not going to focus on the property. So if they don't see it, they can't get it. But that's where you end up losing your commission, you're fighting, and it's ridiculous. So I say, I want to try to avoid that heartache because it's coming. So let's just get ahead of it versus behind it.
I like how you identify the different hot buttons ahead of time, Mel. It probably didn't come very easy. There's a lot of experience after experience, but that's really cool.
Once you have to write a check for a used sofa for like $300 and it's worth $25, you will not ask that question again. Stop. So you said arrive on time?
Before we get into just having the conversation, what'd you say, Mel?
You wanted to know about arriving on time?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of get in to kind of the simple courtesies on top of just arriving on time. Kind of some of the things that you are aware of as you're parking or approaching the house or property in general, just kind of some different things like that make a big difference.
If I have the appointment the next day, I'll call that morning before I go just to say, hi, I'm looking forward to meeting with you. Just wanted to confirm your time. Again, a doctor's office does that. They're used to it and they like it. If you see a steep driveway when you pull up to that house, you better go down that driveway or you're not getting that listing. So you have to own it. So if I know it's maybe steep and they're not down yet, I might go practice it because I do not want to look like an idiot and you cannot burn out in their driveway. Did that, didn't get a listing, put black marks on their driveway. I was out. I was an idiot. I went too fast and I gunned it and I spun out on their driveway.
Well, we are freezing up and locking up at different times. I never know who's talking or not. Sorry.
I think I lost you after the drive. No, I think the internet here is being kind of janky.
Well,
sorry.
you know, it's probably the area in general. It's so busy right now.
Mm-hmm.
other little things. And you know, I don't know if what's on our next slide, Kaylin, because we are moving on time, big time.
Yeah. We're just going to get into stage 2 as far as like setting the tone and getting them into that conversation.
Okay. Well, just a couple of the little bitty things. So when you hit the door, ask if you wear good socks. Don't wear holey socks, because that's a bad deal. Done that. They may ask you to take your shoes off. Don't wait. Ask them, would you like me to remove my shoes? It's just a courtesy. Most of the time they're not going to, but they're looking. I mean, they're looking at, like Mel said, they're looking at if you're comfortable with their driveway, they're looking at what your car looks like, what you look like. You are interviewing for a job. That's it. You can win or lose based upon that interview, not only by what you know and say, but how you look and act. So it is important. So have we pretty much covered the pre-conversation activities? And are we on the message 1? Is that where you think this lays out a process? That's what I like. And that's what I think everybody should have, a process in their mind when they hit the door. That's what I meant earlier, if that makes sense.
Like setting the tone, creating that win-win relationship when you're coming in to the door and offering to take off your shoes and building kind of that rapport. Where are you going in the house? What are you doing?
Kaylin, are you waiting for me? I can't tell if you're done or not. I'm so sorry.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Okay, so yes, I mean, I think you can. So for me, message number 2, uncovering their needs and prioritizing their needs, was done mostly in my tour by questions. You know, as we went room to room and as I was taking notes, that's where I was learning about their motivation, because it just was part of so where are you guys going? You know, oh, you want to get to the grandkids, you know, what's your goal for getting there? Because we weren't sitting down at a table face to face. It was just more comfortable, and we were having casual conversations, and I got to learn a lot about that. Before I got to introducing and reviewing the CMA, for sure, because by the time I got to that, we were sitting at a table, we weren't sitting on chairs in the living room. My goal was always to get them to the table if I could. And if we were sitting at a table, they weren't going to split me up. I didn't have one over here, one over here. So I was going like this, or they were making faces at each other. I put them both on the same side if I could, and so that I could talk to them. And I also did not ever, I wanted to avoid people squaring off with me. So I didn't want you to be right across from me, so that we created this. I wanted kind of you to be at an angle, so a round table. It's kind of silly, but it's helpful. If you're viewed as more of a part of a team rather than you're the realtor and I'm the seller, this is us against the market, if that made sense. So I worked hard on that part of it before we ever sat down. When we sat down, then I had my things in order that I wanted to cover. I wanted to have them ask me questions about how I communicate. What does my company do? What does my team do? What's my unique selling proposition? And I wanted to go through that with them. Yep, Lisa, you're right. I mean, looking them in the eye. I think those things are really important. If you get nervous and you start looking down or looking around or looking up in the air, they're picking up on that. If you look them right in the eye when they ask about commission and you say, yes, I charge 7%, and you don't look away, I mean, I think that speaks volumes. So I don't think I think it's underrated, but most of the time, but I think that's really important.
Lisa, I think about body language too. I know Jeff, like when we're in meetings and stuff, he'll kind of call me out on it, because just comfortably, I'll just sit like this without even thinking about it. But even sitting like this can come across very abrasive to some people. So being aware of how you're sitting, how your mannerisms are, that can be huge. It takes a lot of practice. I know I'm terrible at it, but I still try to practice it all the time.
You know,
Go ahead, Mel. I'm sorry.
one thing I did yesterday, because commission is getting very tough. There are agents that are dropping like crazy, and I did not want to do that with these two people. And I felt pretty good I was going to get it. So when it came to our sheet, you know, of what we charge, 7 versus 6, I actually stood up, got closer to them, and I stood the whole time while I pointed all of that out to them and why we do this. But I wanted to show them more authority when I did it, and that I was so confident. It's really not up for discussion. This is the fee. And they look like they were school kids. There's like 80, and they're like, that's fine. That makes sense. Okay. I'm like, oh, good. And I screwed up on my transaction fee because I got so excited because it worked, but I'm getting there. I'm getting there.
Well, it's a big deal. I'm glad that we talked about that because, and what helps with that is this whole thought that this is a conversation, not a presentation. A presentation puts you on stage.
And Mel, Jeff, when you just conversation after you've done the house tours, what? Do you include like a confidentiality statement of any kind? Do you talk about confidentiality?
You know, we should. I usually forget. I talk about unconditional guarantee because that's right in our listing, our booklet. And so I cover that, you know, we offer an unconditional guarantee, and, you know, they don't pay anything until we get to close. So, you know, a lot of times agents that'll reduce commission right out of the gate, there's no risk to them because a seller's not going to pay anything till you get to close. You want someone who is putting out the money up front. I'm taking the risk up front.
I do.
Go ahead.
I go over confidentiality when I go over agency with them.
Ah.
So how I explain it, I said, what I'm going to assume, and I need to know if it's okay with you, I would work as your seller's agent. And then these are the different types of agency that our company does. You know, designated agent, we have dual agency, and I bring up dual pretty strong because of so much market share that we have. So odds are, you know, if it's with our company, we're both designated. So that means I work for you. And this is how dual agency works if I bring it. But one thing I want to assure you, what we're talking about today is confidential. So I want you to open up to me. Tell me your needs. Tell me your fears. I need to know everything about your house so I know what things that we are going to encounter and how I can best help you. But it's kind of like an attorney relationship. That's how this works. So I need to know everything, and I'm not going to go blab it to everyone because I'm assuming that I'm going to work with you if that's what you want. And most of them go, oh, okay, I get it. Then now, okay, well, yeah, we did have a leak. Great. We need to know that. Did you fix it? Yeah. Great. But tell the people because your neighbors are going to tell them after you close. So you might as well just get it out there right now.
It causes you to show your professionalism. You know what I mean? Not and differentiate yourself. I think it's a great reminder. I think it's really important. So.
When we were talking about needs earlier and just uncovering needs, Mel, what are you kind of finding right now with how the market is with some kind of common needs that are happening right now? Because I know.
What I tell them, because it is such a hot market, it's kind of two different conversations.
A lot of people feel like.
Oh, it's locked up. Okay.
Yeah.
So it depends on what type of property it is.
Hey, Kaylin, we're breaking. We can't tell that you're talking. We keep interrupting. Sorry. Go ahead, Mel. Just keep going. I think she's locked up.
Okay. So let's say it's a condo. The condo market is the lowest that we've had in many years. So if I pulled yesterday morning, it was 144 when I went. So I explained to them, odds are we could have a multiple offer situation. So let's talk about it now and how we handle it on my team. This is our team policy, and this is also the company policy. So let's go over that because it's a possibility. They could rush in here. The other thing that could possibly happen is it will not appraise. Appraisers look in the past, we're looking in the future because of the inventory. So that may be something that if it goes over asking price, or if we get close to it because we're pushing our price point and that's what they wanted to do, it may not appraise. You know, if they get a loan, they may or may not be willing to let that go. If they don't, are you going to be willing to make any concessions? Because I want us to think about it now before we're in the moment. Because the minute we're in the moment, it's going to be chaotic. So anything we can talk about now and have a game plan, let me know your feelings on it. You know, is this a big thing to you or is it not? You know, can you move quickly? That's a new thing. The movers right now are hard to get. I talked to these people yesterday. I said, I know you want your red couch. However, if I get you a good offer comes in, they want it closing in a week. Are you willing to give that couch up? And the wife was like, I don't know. You know, and the husband goes, yes, we will. And then she goes, you're right, it's a couch. I don't even know where I'm going to go with it. So I was trying to get ahead of it because they're going to ask for this couch. So I'm like, get the couch out of your head. We're leaving the couch. So I'll talk about things like that. If it's a waterfront property, it's the same conversation. If it's a more unique property, I let them know ahead of time. This may be a longer process. And I consider it like a marriage because this could take, I don't know, 6 months, maybe a year to sell. We don't see a lot of them. So at first you're going to like me, then you're not going to like me. But at the end, my goal is for you to love me and send me a Christmas card because it's a roller coaster ride. Even if it goes fast or slow, it's still emotional. So let's just all be on the same page.
So I think that part of it, Mel, is really important, covering all your bases. So you don't know. I mean, sometimes you have a good feel for what's going to get a lot of activity because of price point, area, property type. But we never really know if we're going to get multiple offers or not. So it's great. You know, a lot of the seller conversations that we're having now, they're calling you because they know it's hot, because they think that they're going to get more money than they normally get for their property, and that's what instigates the call. And you got to play with that. You got to keep them on the hook for that. But I think that you're very smart to cover what happens if, because we have the ability to monitor the market that you're in, and the feedback we're going to specifically get on your house. And we're going to be able to tell quickly whether we are in that sweet spot or whether we kind of miss the mark a little bit. And I think that if you can cover that in that conversation delicately, you don't want to, you know, I hate, sometimes we will lose listings to agents who will bump the price a little bit outside of where it needs to be, especially if it's a lakefront, a good home, and you'll see it pop up, you know, for $10,000 more than your price. That's why our pricing class is so important, because it gives a range of low and high, and it explains why you're not the one responsible for coming up with the exact dollar amount. There's nobody at the Lake of the Ozarks, no agent and no appraiser that knows that. All we can do is give you a low range and a high range, and we can look based upon your amenities where it looks like you're going to fit best, and then it's up to you to make an educated decision. If you do that, that'll lessen your loss to agents who will price higher than the number you gave. If you're given a number, you're subject to potentially losing. But if you give a range, it gives you that flexibility, and then you can make sure to tell them how you'll monitor it, so you'll know if that's a sweet spot or if we have to make an adjustment within the range. Does that make sense?
Jeff, can you hear me?
Yes.
I was just gonna ask you a question on something that you said, and that was, when people are calling right now or meeting with you and they think that their property might be a little bit worth more because of the market right now, and you said to play kind of with that. Can you give maybe an name of kind of what you mean when you say like kind of play with that?
Yeah. So if people ask you how the market is, there's a reason they're asking. So if they call you asking about their price, that means something they're thinking about selling. So when they're on the phone, or you're dealing with an internet lead or email, we have to be optimistic and positive, because they want to know that you know, that's what's going to get us in the door to talk more to them. So when I said play with that, I meant, you know, it's an amazing time to sell. You know, I can't identify over the phone what specific, you know, specific prices is. We really have to sit down, and I have to show you what I'm looking at so that you can be a party to that decision. But here's what I know. It's amazing, and you're going to be surprised by the information I'm able to show you. And so when I say play, I mean, I'm not giving them all of it, but I'm also being very optimistic with it. I want to convert a lead. My whole goal is to convert a lead. If it's for a listing, you know, we have to be optimistic.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not hard, you know,
Well,
it's not hard.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I like how it also kind of keeps them engaged to want to know more from you, if that makes sense. Before we kind of run out of time, we got about 8 more minutes, because we're going to split this class up into 2 parts. We're picking it back up at 9 a.m. on Tuesday for part 2. But I wanted to give you guys who attended the opportunity to kind of just ask questions, or maybe give some examples of kind of what you're seeing in the field. I hope that I'm not breaking up and you can hear me, but if you guys can you know, throw out something that you may be struggling with as far as listing conversion, or you want to get better at, kind of now's the time before the class ends, and we'll jump into part 2 on Tuesday. So this class is all about sparring. So the more that you guys bring to the table, the better we can help and bounce ideas off of each other.
Whenever you say sparring, I'm like,
Sparring.
Objections.
No. Come on, what do you got?
I know you guys got stuff. I hear it all the time.
Everybody is like super confident with listings and so excited, never nervous, no problems there.
I tell them, you know, because I know it's intimidating to ask the questions. I get it. But I tell them, you know, I'm human too, guys. I'm going to try to do the very best I can with the knowledge that I have access to, use my experience, and talk to the other agents in my company to try to get you the best price. But pricing in this market is probably one of the most difficult things. So I knew these people I had yesterday were going to want to start high. And I said, I'm going to be honest, I'm not unwilling to try with you. I don't know. I wish I could tell you, you know, really down to maybe 10,000 where I think it's going to be, but I could be wrong. So let's try together to look at it, and more so look at if maybe you're a buyer. I've been using that more. So what I'll send them is more active condos or active homes and say, let's look at the top 5 houses here that are most comparable. Which one would you buy? If you were a buyer, let's compare to your property. Do you think this one rates better or less? This one or this one? Then we can maybe narrow down compared to our competition. So I'm using that strategy more right now. And sometimes you'll find out how much pride they have in it. And I'm like,
Hey,
you don't realize it's good or bad.
Hey, Mel.
Yeah.
I love Ron Schweiss's deal, and we're starting to see that more. I was actually talking with Jason about them using that. So basically, just like you said, so let's just say you have a condo, you don't know exactly, you know, there's not many comps in the project for what these people want to price at. So you know it's high, but it's a great condo and there's not many actives out there either. So remember Ron's deal where you put it on the market and then you have a viewing time. So you're going to entertain, you're putting it on the market on Wednesday, and you are going to entertain offers on Monday. So you have a period of time for viewing. Isn't that how he did it?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't think of the way that
He said
Then that-
then
go
by a
ahead.
certain date. So the viewing time begins on Wednesday. We will look at offers by like 5 o'clock on Monday.
Right, and you say
Yeah, it's
that
like
right out of the gate. So you're creating some thought that there's going to be lots of viewings and that I can't submit an offer until X amount of time. So you're starting that deal. Now, worst case scenario, let's say it doesn't get the showings that you want and it doesn't get the offers. You haven't hurt yourself any because nobody else knows that. You just take that off of there and proceed down the road, right? But that's an interesting way to explain to the sellers that wants to try how you can try it, but we're not pinned. We can, if this doesn't work, we're going to find out in the first week how many people are circling. And there might be 3 or 4, and we might get into multiple offers, and this might create our ability to get, to get a higher than normal or higher price than the market is indicating. However, if we don't, that means we may have missed the mark a little bit. We're not going to date ourselves, but it's going to give us a chance to reevaluate. Now that might be something to do.
Well, I think even if you priced it what you thought was maybe a little low. I did that on one and it created a frenzy like nobody's business, and they got way more than I thought they ever would have got.
How about Susan's deal? 14 offers. And I love the fact that in her deal, she had all these multiple offers, and she had the sellers agree to disclose other contracts and terms. And that created a miniature auction. But what I thought was really interesting was every agent knew where the other agent stood, and it kind of caused, I think, less fallout as far as people being upset. I mean, nobody is super happy when they lose a deal, but when you lose a deal and you don't know what other deal won, that creates some weird feelings.
Can I ask a question? Could you possibly, okay, say all of a sudden it gets all this flurry and you mark no to not disclose the terms. Can you do an amendment to your listing contract? If you have
Absolutely.
so we can have a discussion with the seller that
Yeah.
says, hey, because of all this, here's a strategy that we've seen work, but I have to amend your listing contract for you to agree to that.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, and you just let everybody know exactly how it's going to be played.
Mhm.
Okay. I thought that was awesome.
Question.
I did too.
Everybody knew there weren't hard feelings. Yeah, as hard. I mean, people were upset, but it was all on the up and up.
I agree. It's awesome. Does anybody else have any more questions? We're at our hour time limit. As for the unstable internet, but everybody's
Mel's
using
locked up with the
it
eyes
and super
closed.
busy,
Look,
so that's
like this.
good.
like that, like that's kind of funny. You could like mess with people. You should be talking like this, but you're really not locked up. That's kind of funny. Okay, are we done? Kaylin is gone. Where's Kaylin? Kaylin is gone. We're done. I'm gonna sign off. I don't even know when the next follow-up. She said Tuesday at 9. Kaylin, if you can hear me, we might need to redo that Tuesday at 9 if it's not out there for the whole world, because I think that's about meeting time for several of the teams. So we might need to think about that. Look, Mel's locked up on the see, on my screen you look like this. That's funny. I should take a picture of that.
Why?
Awesome. Damn,
Why?
I missed it. Nothing. Okay. All right. We're out. Thanks, guys. See ya. Have a
Yeah,
great
exactly.
4th. See you, Ron.